to feel in my soul the essence of that which it strove to convey.
Perhaps the greatest thing about mystery fiction is that rather than being a simple viewing experience, these stories inherently invite us to play along, to involve ourselves in their narratives, to ponder the significance of what we are being shown, perhaps more so than any other type of media. At their best, aren't these difficult but solvable crossword puzzles? If you guessed right, hey, I'm proud of you, champ, and if you didn't, don't worry, I know you did your best. There's always next time, I'm still proud of you. But either way, with a murder mystery, the more you dig into what you are being shown, the more you play with its constituent parts and elements in your mind, the more rewarding it will be. A type of media that by design demands interactivity over passive consumption. Wake Up Dead Man is the third film in writer-director Rian Johnson's Benoit Blanc series of films, after 2019's Knives Out and 2022's Glass Onion. And I will start by saying that I really love those films, but they aren't great murder mysteries. They are great films that involve a detective solving a murder mystery, sure, but they aren't fair play mysteries, where a reader or viewer has a chance to unravel whodunit through clues both we and the detective are privy to. Again, this is not a criticism of these films, they are doing other things, and both are in dialogue with mystery fiction as they do them. But in neither Knives Out nor Glass Onion can a viewer be expected to puzzle out, from the clues presented to them, the mystery which the detective is trying to solve. Knives Out is an intelligent Baroque spin on the country house mystery, but the twist is kinda that there wasn't even a murder, yet alone one an audience is supposed to unpack beyond one character being an even bigger shitwad than the other shitwads. Its real trick is the character of Benoit Blanc himself, the dapper southern gentleman detective, and Knives Out is really a grand showcase for Johnson's greatest creation.
Enter Benoit Blanc.
And what a character he is, eloquent but disarming. A mind that hums at the mere crackle of a mystery. Daniel Craig clearly just having an absolute blast. His Blanc a giddy cocktail of the distilled essences of detectives past. Hints and notes of Columbo, Nero Wolfe, Ustinov's Raconteur Poirot, William Powell's smooth Nick Charles, and probably a dozen more. An ostentatious showman but not obnoxious. Craig playing for the cheap seats from rumbling speeches to pursed lips. Of the past but fresh and modern. A performance that sets the tone for the film series as a whole. Meanwhile, Glass Onion has more of a comedy vibe, a big brash satire that hangs a lantern on how dumb its central mystery is.
Look into the clear center of this glass onion.
Structurally going more for a series of answers which lead to more questions, with a major midpoint reveal being finally finding out what the right question actually is. I have to say, I love that for Glass Onion, narratively reflecting its theme that these tech bros we treat as super geniuses are actually super dumb. Although calling it a theme seems generous, as it is also literally the plot.
It's so dumb.
It's so dumb, it's brilliant.
No!
Bless Glass Onion for its lack of subtlety. Rian Johnson wanted to say something, and he damn well said it. These are dumb guys who we treat like geniuses because they got lucky. I want to be clear that these films aren't lesser for not being fair play mysteries. They use mystery as a device to tell their stories, and in at least one way it benefits them as pieces of cinema. It's also fair to say that not all Golden Age mysteries were truly fair play either. Johnson name-dropping John Dixon Carr's The Hollow Man, when that is famously utterly ludicrous and completely unguessable as a mystery. Its real strength being its dialogue with its own genre, a context in which not playing fair is actually a very fun subversion of Carr's established style. But, by contrast, Wake Up Dead Man is absolutely a fair play mystery. And while all of the films have been a love letter to the idea of the great detective, this is also a love letter to mystery fiction itself. The crime is presented to us, the clues are scattered before us, the viewer is meticulously given exactly the same information as the detective. The solution is discernible through patience and deduction, not tossed offhandedly into our lap through final act flim-flam. Any lover of the form will recognize these tropes, and understand that they are the ones who have been hand-delivered an immaculately penned invitation to solve a seemingly unsolvable murder. The game is afoot. But Johnson knows exactly what kind of little mystery gremlin you are, you freak. He's shoving in your face with literal reading lists.
Who chose these books?
Oprah.
So while Wake Up Dead Man is a fair play mystery, as with any good trick, the magic is in the misdirection. The fluffy and ludicrous the preserve of lesser works, remote-controlled robots, fake walls are dismissed fairly quickly. But the last two films in the series have trained us to expect a grand rug pull regardless. And that's played into here. Johnson seeing the possibility of yet more twin magic, or maybe a fake death, and who would need to be in on that?
Wicks was 100% medically dead.
All of the characters are given a motive, in one scene no less, itself a misdirect that allows for the possibility of a Murder on the Orient Express scenario. But the biggest red herring is very much leading down the path of a twist lifted from Agatha Christie's finest work, which I'm going to spoil in 3, 2, 1, The Murder of Roger Ackroyd, which saw the narrator character having been economical with the truth. Not lying, but...
You can always be honest by not saying the unhonest part.
And ultimately is revealed as the culprit himself, Christie's most audacious twist. The grande dame of murder mystery fiction was never really fancied much as a quote-unquote writer, considered a master of devious plots but deliverer of functional prose with paper-thin broad strokes characterization. And The Murder of Roger Ackroyd blows that whole idea up. A brilliantly sustained conceit that shows she wasn't just a master of this kind of fiction but able to mount and tame it, bend it to her will, toy with its every aspect and still satisfy narratively while subverting formally. The Murder of Roger Ackroyd is indisputably her masterpiece, and lovers of the genre will no doubt be fully aware of it, Johnson even taking the time to lampshade its importance while aping its structure, then delivering that very twist at the film's midpoint.
Why'd you do it?
And instantly undoing it. You didn't think it was going to be that easy, did you? Hell, it's even toyed with in the naming conventions. Monsignor Wicks may be wicked, but is Father Duplessis duplicitous? It's not just a perfect red herring, it exemplifies how much of a love letter to mystery fiction this film is, signaling to those who know the history, who seek to break these stories under their cold, logical minds like nuts in a cracker, that he not only sees you, but that he's one of you, and beyond that he's toying with you.
Yes, a wiggly wiggly.
That he knows we are playing and he's playing too. The mechanics of a murder mystery is a winking in-joke between friends over a game of murder poker. And even if we can guess what cards are in his hand, he's going to keep raising the stakes until we are both all in. The trick isn't simply dangling red herrings. In many cases, it's effectively telling those stories, chasing down threads until they reveal themselves to be hanging loose in the breeze. Johnson is a skillful filmmaker to the point of manipulation. Artful composition a given, layering cinematic trickery on top of narrative trickery, weaving an ornate basket before our eyes and proving it holds tight as a drum. And hold it does, this is a fair play mystery, absolutely untangleable, possibly even quite simple, which I would argue a good mystery should be. The secret behind a magic trick is always relatively mundane, and the weakest solution is one that stretches the credulity of a reader. Could a viewer find its layering of red herrings and misdirection to be contrived or annoying?
Scooby-Dooby-Doo.
I don't care. That is precisely the fun. It's a mystery for mystery fanatics, and it says it with its chest. A murder mystery drawing inspiration from the classics of the genre, revolving around a murder that is itself inspired by those very classics. But being so in dialogue with mystery fiction is only part of why I loved Wake Up Dead Man. I've already watched the film more than once, and a mystery, however immaculately crafted, can only ever be experienced once. There's little fun to be had doing the same crossword over and over, knowing all the answers. I've already mentioned that neither Knives Out nor Glass Onion work particularly well as murder mysteries, both instead using a nominal structure of mystery to unspool tales of secrets, double crosses and intrigue, non-linear narratives that unpeel layers of character, Blanc's deductions taking us beneath presentations and trappings, as much as drawing us closer to finding out who done it. They both do so brilliantly. Their cast of suspects almost as perfectly fleshed out as our protagonists. And while Wake Up Dead Man is not necessarily shabby in regard to its story, a spider's web of familial drama, betrayal, greed, envy, and ultimately, literal backstabbing, that all lead back to the deceased. But by comparison with the earlier films, the supporting characters are somewhat underdeveloped. This is what the other two films do a lot better than Wake Up Dead Man, but that is effectively a byproduct of adhering more closely to a mystery structure, a weakness inherent to the form, perhaps why Johnson has played so fast and loose in the previous films. In order for a murder mystery to actually work, aspects of these characters have to be kept mysterious, and only one suspect can truly be the subject of the grand reveal, the others having to remain one note as they are pushed to the background by the mechanics of the plot. The culprit's personal story when finally divulged, flowing through and filling the narrative like water through a pipe, the mystery a Rube Goldberg contraption powered by the drip drip drips of their guilt. And you couldn't wish for a performer to fill those gaps more expertly than the brilliant Glenn Close, her grand confession doing exactly what the culmination of a great mystery should, highlighting the clues you should have paid attention to, recontextualizing the seemingly humdrum, filling in the blanks of motivation and action, all delivered in a swirl of venom and pathos. A great mystery is nothing without a great story to hang it on, and, in fact, as Johnson himself has proved, a great story really comes first. That Wake Up Dead Man is both is a testament to his skill as a storyteller. But, again, that's not all he's going for with these films. They are entertainment first and foremost, but the inherent interactivity of mystery fiction allows him to play yet another game with his viewers, in that all of these films are also arch satire. Both Knives Out and Glass Onion focus on wealth, and particularly the spheres of grifters who spring up around it. Characters that are archetypal of hypocritical self-serving termites, making mud tubes out of other people's money. In many ways, these films are about that more than their central mystery, filled with lampoons of the very worst of our cultural moment. Dishonest politicians, entitled trust fund kids, sellout scientists, alt-right trolls, meathead influencers, and in both, the tables are ultimately turned on these structures of power, the established order flipped upside down, with those they seek to marginalize left standing atop. With Wake Up Dead Man, Johnson seems to take aim at another structure of power, maybe the oldest there is, the church. At the core of the satire is the perennially incredible Josh Brolin as the charismatic Monsignor Wicks, preaching a gospel of hate and division, creating narratives of oppression that must be fought by oppressing others, in-groups and out-groups, saints and sinners, structures to be enforced from the top down at the risk of exclusion from this parochial paradise. And while this is a very broad swipe, taking in a lot of the religious rights bugbears.
I hammered the race thing, I hammered the gender thing, the trans thing.
Feminist, Marxist.
The border thing, the homeless thing, the war thing.
Have that child out of wedlock.
BLM, CRT, the CDC, DEI.
The way the structures of oppression are most clearly seen in Wake Up Dead Man is through misogyny.
From a loose woman of no importance.
There's an undercurrent throughout the Knives Out series of misogyny as a means to control, perpetuated by structures of power, but Wake Up Dead Man places that theme at the core of its narrative. Wick's mother, the so-called harlot whore, presented as a demon of self-interest and sexuality by the characters, is just a woman othered and oppressed for being feminine, actually expressed textually in the film.
Shaming her, and teaching us all to shame her.
While the wonderful Kerry Washington's Vera is a qualified lawyer, saddled with raising someone else's illegitimate son for no reason other than, that's what women do, right? Isn't it?
If you eat his shit with a spoon and come back for seconds.
The roles are cast, set in stone, calcified. Women that seek to exist in this overbearing traditionalist world are mothers, whores, or housekeepers. The film's MacGuffin 2, a diamond worth $80 million and dubbed Eve's Apple, even plays into this theme, referencing that at the foundational heart of Christianity is a woman being blamed, who couldn't control themselves and whose missteps saw humanity banished from the Garden of Eden. Textually, in the faith, at the heart of sin is woman. Eve is arguably not even the most famous female character from the Bible. That probably goes to Mary, the mother of Christ, canonically a vessel and little more. Like Wick's harlot mother, in the stories told of her, she is notable only for her relation to the man she birthed. An order has been created, handed down from God, and man sits at the top. More valuable, more respectable, more important. Women subservient. Mothers disciples or, well...
A reminder, the shameful sin of the harlot whore.
And here we come to another point, in how recognizable Wick's rhetoric is in a modern context, that this is satire in microcosm, and I don't think it's taking aim solely at religious structures, or even religious structures specifically at all. This is a film squarely, resolutely, about how Christianity has been co-opted by the modern right as a political tool.
I've shrunk the flock.
No, you've radicalized them.
Maybe it's simply the fairly tight bond between the Christian New Right and the broader New Right in America. And I'm not going to say that Josh Brolin based his characterization of Monsignor Wicks on Donald Trump. That would be silly. He's based him on Steve Bannon.
He's co-opting and honestly, I think misrepresenting the church in a dangerous way.
But Johnson has filled Wick's dialogue with the evocative language of the powerful and corrupt, inciting others with narratives of division, hatred, and confected victimhood. Battle-hardened bullet points designed to rouse and enrage. And maybe it simply speaks to how well-worn this language is. But then again, maybe it's not a coincidence that I can do this.
Not good.
Not good. And not good the way they took the money. Not good.
Not good for us, folks. Not good.
You here to take my church away from me?
It's sad. No, they want to take away your rights. Well, I know that better than anybody. They want to take away my rights better than anybody. Our enemies want to take away my freedom.
Take back the ground we've lost.
Take back our country. Because you'll never take back our country with weakness.
We have to take back the heart of our country. We have to do something to take back our country. We're going to take back our capital.
Because the world wants to destroy us.
They have done everything possible to destroy us.
You're a minister, a pastor, or other religious leader, a rabbi. If you want to say things that are political. They take away your tax exemptions and they really destroy you. Destroying our country. By the way, totally destroying our country.
Always the true threat comes from within.
It's the enemy from within, invasion from within. We're under invasion from within. I think the bigger problem is the enemy from within. We have two enemies. We have the outside enemy, and then we have the enemy from within.
Are you going to get angry and fight?
And you have to get your people to fight, and we're going to have to fight much harder. We fight. We fight like hell. And if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore. I'll say it again and again. Vote Christians.
Such a time to be alive.
Beyond Wicks himself, there is Daryl McCormack's aspiring politician, Cy, explicitly joining the dots between the religious and the political.
You could be president.
Kaylee Spaney's Simone, dire personal circumstances and professional frustration breeding a desperation that means she will overlook anything.
I don't need you to be a saint.
Andrew Scott's Lee, a formerly successful writer who disappeared down an online rabbit hole, now a true believer in the alt-right grift.
Unplug my brain, from the liberal hive mind.
Or Jeremy Renner's Dr. Nat, personal difficulties sending him spiraling into drink and manosphere misogyny, refusing to let reality even gain a foothold as it slaps him across the face, something which barely seems like satire at the moment.
What is truth? Right, with various sources. We don't know that. What exists?
And Glenn Close's Martha, the devout disciple, trapped in this structure without realizing that she is her own jailer, a life given over to the certainty of service, and who will go to any lengths to perpetuate a myth that is her only reality. Wake Up Dead Man presents faith in America as having been corrupted, a takeover from within by those who only think about themselves. Christianity, a political weapon abused by the powerful to perpetuate their positions. But at the same time, it's not a film critical of faith as a concept or solely painting the church as a vehicle for evil. And our effective lead, I don't care whose name is first in the credits, Josh O'Connor's father Judd is the main character, is very much representative of a different kind of Christianity.
That's what I want this church to be, for me and for all of you.
Before I go on, I'll quickly say that O'Connor is really developing into a wonderful leading man. Challenges La Chimera and now this. 3 of my favourite films of the last couple of years hinging on his charisma, nuance and likability.
You're really good at this.
And Father Judd is certainly likeable. Not a man without flaws, but a man who accepts he has them and seeks to better himself. A grace he is willing to show himself and makes a point of offering to others. It is that grace that is at the core of how he sees Christianity, the faith he holds having at its heart acceptance and goodwill. I'm not someone of faith myself, but I've always assumed that this is pretty much what it should represent, just from the fairly basic stuff that everyone knows, which makes it extra weird, to me at least, that it's often used by authoritarian dickwads like Wicks to enforce regressive attitudes. I've always kind of wondered how those particular people of faith square those circles. Texts that teach forgiveness and understanding shaped into structures that oppress and marginalize. And Wake Up Dead Man posits simple in-group psychology.
Testing tolerances, tapping deep poisoned wells, hardening, binding with complicity.
There is one scene in particular that contrasts Father Judd not just with Monsignor Wicks, but with Blanc and even with the viewer themselves. A telephone call that happens just as the film reaches a narrative crescendo. Excitedly spilling plot, our protagonist pacing frantically, the camera handheld and jittery, a cinematic caffeine panic attack, met with the comedic roadblock of a stereotypical fast-talking Karen character, our desire for resolution pushing up against a grating and annoying obstacle, and then turning on one request.
Will you pray for me?
Johnson taking his foot off the accelerator and easing it onto the brakes. The pace dropping with long static takes, moments of stillness. 30 seconds ago we would happily have throttled this person, slapped her and demanded she'd tell us what we need to know like we were Jack Bauer. But now we stop. And we listen. And someone to listen is all she really needs. Father Judd had lost sight of her humanity. So had Benoit Blanc. So had we. And that's actually a pretty good lesson, isn't it? For the characters and a viewer, for people who believe and people who don't. Our own stories are just one of many, our own struggles no more important than any others. By design, this film has heart and is about having heart. Not one compressed into a diamond and hidden away, but one that has compassion and care for others, even ultimately having heart for a killer, to understand the circumstances that led them to that moment, to give them the opportunity to ask forgiveness, to understand what they have done wrong. Her name wasn't the harlot whore. Her name was Grace.
That poor girl.
Grace for others, whether they deserve it or not. Heart no matter the circumstance. That is the Christianity Father Judd represents, the lesson he asks us to follow. But do I think this is a Christian film? Is Rian Johnson planting his flag in the ground, announcing a Damascene conversion of his own, and there's a God's Not Dead sequel at some point in his future? No. That's an incredibly facetious question. Of course not. Johnson was fairly open in interviews leading up to the release of this film that he was someone of lapsed faith, a self-described reasoned atheist. And his creation, Benoit Blanc, is effectively a director-insert character, probably as close to Johnson's own views as we are going to find.
Proud heretic. I kneel at the altar of the rational. Fairy tale filled with malevolence and misogyny and homophobia. God is a fiction.
In fact, this is true across all of these films, with part of the fun being the moments where Blanc gets the opportunity to dress down the assorted shitheels that make up their casts.
Vultures at the feast! Knives out, beaks bloody!
And those aspects of these films feel very much aimed at someone like me, someone who, like Johnson, is tired of disingenuous grifters poisoning the cultural milieu. But not everything has to be aimed at me, save for a fortuitous bit of solar illumination, which an audience is led to believe is as surely a fluke as Blanc does. This is not a film with miracles. In fact, its plot revolves around an attempt to confect a miracle to disguise malice. The miracles, when they do happen, are kindness. The Damascus moment in the film is to find grace for your enemy. That while this film holds a mirror up to the worst of what faith is used for, it is also reminding people with faith of what their faith can and should be, epitomized by Father Judd. Imperfect, but caring, compassionate, and selfless. And if you truly believe, maybe you shouldn't blindly follow those who preach that you should have your guard up and not your arms open. But while neither Johnson nor I are believers ourselves, there is one miracle in the film, one I've already dismissed as a narrative element, which was a red herring.
I put my faith in you. Oh, God.
The beam of light shining through the church windows just as Benoit Blanc is about to damn our villain in front of our assembled players, to finally achieve his orgasmic checkmate moment. This is a miracle. It is a miracle enacted by the creator of this world at just the right moment to have the maximum impact on those who witness it. It is the old literary device of pathetic fallacy, a writer controlling the very elements to reflect the mood of the scene, the power of cinema bleeding through from subtext to text. Johnson actually uses this technique throughout the film, albeit far more subtly. More tranquil moments playing out against a still spring, or a storm raging as Judd is at his lowest and Wick seems to be resurrected. And he even uses this exact trick earlier in the film, although again much more subtly, during the scene where Blanc and Father Judd first meet. Initially cold, dark and grey, but light gradually seeping through those windows as they converse. The scene and tone lightening as one, which you could say is possibly just foreshadowing, but tellingly, as they discuss the power of storytelling.
Do these stories convince us of a lie, or do they resonate with something deep inside us that's profoundly true?
Every single element I've discussed here are just pieces of a whole, the constituent tesserae of the stained glass mosaic that makes up this story. And ultimately, that is exactly what Wake Up Dead Man is about.
You're right. It's storytelling.
When the sun shines on Blanc in that final scene, that is Johnson telling us that he is indeed the creator, in control of every aspect, that this is his church. You are in the pews, and he's preaching to you from the pulpit. Johnson may not have faith in God, but it's clear from these films that he does believe in one thing. He believes in the power of cinema, the power of these stories. Not just to entertain, but to enlighten, to educate, to take us to that road in Damascus. That is, and always was, the power of storytelling. And it's not just film, it's not just books, it's not just religion. Stories are everywhere. A social media hijacked by grifters, or creatives who have lost their way to monomania. Too much media catering to the worst aspects of the most impressionable. That is, ultimately, Martha's plot, to craft a story to be disseminated, a falsehood to be spread to convince others of an even bigger lie. A film that's in love with the golden age of mystery fiction, that itself constantly references media, is a message to media that can, occasionally, or not so occasionally, lose its way. A race to the bottom, pandering to our worst instincts, reducing everything down to the black and white dichotomy of good versus evil, of saints and sinners, of us versus them. Even Johnson's own films, Knives Out and Glass Onion, were bitter scattergun satires where the worst get their comeuppances, be it the culprits, their schemes unravelled like spools of bloody yarn, or cast of supporting characters, not guilty of the central crime but whose hands aren't clean and fates aren't rosy? Were these films in danger of becoming empty, cynical monuments to the glory of Blanc and, by extension, his creator, unpicking these clockwork contrivances, firing potshots at his chosen targets and basking in the glory?
When I take the stage and unravel my opponent's web.
And that's Blanc's arc in this film, learning that these mysteries aren't just the means for self-aggrandizement, but that we can find the tragic humanity at their heart too, that we can offer forgiveness, even when it isn't deserved. A film that doesn't damn its cartoon villain, but shows us a human, faults and all, and allows them a modicum of salvation in their defeat. Wake Up Dead Man isn't simply a cold clockwork mystery box, the joy in the solution. At its core is a beating heart. Maybe Johnson looks at the world where for too many, possibly even himself, compassion and kindness seem to be missing, buried somewhere deep inside us, underneath hate or hubris, a desire to attack our enemies or have our checkmate moments, crushed down into a sharp-cut diamond, locked in a tomb where no one will find it. And maybe, no matter who we are or what we believe, we should look inward and say, wake up, dead man.
Well, glory be. That cleared the room.
Thank you very much for watching. If you listened to this, you made it all the way to the end. I'm impressed. The like and subscribe buttons are there, no pressure, just saying. Commenting is really awesome. I like that. I mostly reply, so that's a winner. Thank you to everyone who watches, likes and subscribes. Hopefully I'll see you next time.